All right. Chair Haynes and members of the commission, we are now live.
Thank you, and good evening, and welcome to the August 19th, 2026 meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Jeffrey Haynes, and I am the chair. I will now ask the commissioners and staff to introduce themselves in alphabetical order.
Carly Bond.
Mark Dominiani.
Michael Galway.
Jonathan Kaplan.
Sandra Prather.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
Laura DePasquale, Historic Preservation Staff.
Ian Brukert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Devin Martha, Historic Preservation Staff.
Thank you. First item on our agenda this evening are the historic area work permits. Have the work permits been duly advertised?
Yes, Chair Haynes, they were advertised in the August 5th edition of the Washington Times.
Thank you. If anyone is here to testify for any cases, please speak with staff and they will let us know that you are here to address one of the cases. We are going to begin tonight by expediting the cases we believe can be expedited based on staff reports. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to case 1A at 3927 Washington Street, Kensington? Case 1B at 5820 Surrey Street, Chevy Chase. Case 1C at 7107 Sycamore Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1D at 7300 Baltimore Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1E at 15107 Birmingham Drive, Burtonsville. Case 1F at 5511 Lambeth Road, Bethesda. Case 1G at 19821 Darnestown Road, Bealsville. Case 1H at 14510 Mount Nebo Road, Poolsville. Case 1I at 7429 Carroll Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1J at 7110 Sycamore Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1K at 105 Elm Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1L at 102 East Kirk Street, Chevy Chase. Case 1M at 17 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic area work permits in accordance with the staff reports based upon the report before us in consideration of the recommendations of the local advisory panels and including the conditions recommended by staff. HOP number 1164698 at 3927 Washington Street, Kensington. HOP number 1165704 retroactive at 5820 Surrey Street, Chevy Chase. HOP number 1165778 at 7107 Sycamore Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1165788 at 7300 Baltimore Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1165825 at 15107 Birmingham Drive, Burtonsville. HOP number 1165930 at 5511 Lambeth Road, Bethesda. HOP number 1166076 at 19821 Darnestown Road, Bealsville. HOP number 1166209 retroactive at 14510 Mount Nebo Road, Poolsville. HOP number 1147788 revision at 7429 Carroll Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1155556 revision at 7110 Sycamore Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1166316 at 105 Elm Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1067931 revision number 6 at 102 East Kirk Street, Chevy Chase. and HOP number 1064778, revision number 6 at 17 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase.
Is there a second? Any commissioners wish to second that motion?
This is Commissioner Dominiani. I would second.
Very good. I will take a roll call, and it will be yay, in favor, nay, not in favor. Carly Bond?
Yay.
Commissioner Dominiani?
Yay.
Commissioner Galway?
Yay.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yay.
Commissioner Prather?
Yay.
And this is Commissioner Haynes. I say yay. That is passed unanimously. Those cases are all approved. If you have any questions, you can speak with staff tomorrow during regular business hours. And we certainly appreciate your work to preserve your properties and in working with staff to submit easily approvable work permits. We're now going to move on to preliminary case. The first case tonight will be 2A at 4901 Brookville Road. Brookville, do we have a staff report?
Yes, this is Laura with the staff. This is a preliminary consultation review for construction of a new access road within an existing shared use access easement through 4901 Brookville Road, Brookville, to a landlocked parcel to the north at 4811 Brookville Road. The proposed work would run through the Bon Secours master plan site, a roughly 100-acre farm with a central core of historic buildings, including a circa 1861 Italianate dwelling, corn cribs, barns, a stone pump house, kitchen, and chicken coop. The project is subject to review under Chapter 24A of the Montgomery County Code and the Secretary of the Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation. Here's a broader bird's eye view of the master plan site and the parcel to the north, as well as an image of the historic dwelling, which is located at the center of the site here. The central core of historic buildings is set higher on the topography and surrounded by gently sloping cultivated farmland. The core is accessed by 2 tree-laned gravel driveways set approximately 1,000 feet apart on Brookville Road. Few closer views of the buildings and driveways, as well as an existing farm lane. I think those are again. So for this preliminary consultation review, the applicants, who are representatives of the owners of the neighboring parcel to the north, seek feedback on a proposal to construct a 12-foot wide paved road with periodic pull-offs within an existing 20-foot wide shared use access easement through the Bon Secours master plan site to this landlocked parcel to the north, which is being developed from agricultural land into a solar farm. The current easement area is unimproved for the first approximately 975 feet or so, shown here in red, before turning to run northeast along an existing gravel farm lane that currently runs through the site. The new and existing roadways would be 12 feet wide with periodic pull-offs and paved with asphalt. Drainage improvements, erosion and sediment controls, and permanent stabilization of disturbed areas would also be included. Here's a detailed view of the proposed site plan, or kind of a detail showing the relationship of the historic core of buildings to the new road. And here are views, this one at the bottom from the entrance to the driveway. You can see one of the barns here, this barn in this image on the bottom, and then this top photograph looking northeast along the existing farm lane. The applicants have presented several alternative access options they explored and the reasons they determined them infeasible. Alternate 1 included access from Brookville Road to the east at 4301 Brookville Road. The applicants have indicated that they discussed access rights with the owner, but that the owners declined to grant access. Second alternative route explored was from the north from Zion Road, but this route was determined infeasible owing to environmental impacts, including tree clearing, wetlands, and associated buffers. A third alternative route was explored also from Zion Road through the existing Pepco, right of way, but that prohibits construction of roadways that run parallel to the transmission lines, which there are transmission lines you can kind of see here. So staff finds that the partial paving of the existing farm lane, which is not visible from Brookville Road and runs along the tree line and property line of the northeast section of the historic resource, will not have a substantial impact on the historic resource. Staff's primary concern is with the construction of the roadway through the farm field to in the southeastern section of the master plan site. Staff notes that this portion of the proposed roadway will be visible from Brookville Road and likely from the historic core of the resource, although the roadway will be at a slightly lower elevation than the historic buildings. However, staff finds that at 12 feet in width and hugging the tree line at the southeastern corner of the property for the first approximately 350 feet, the proposal does limit the immediate visual impact from the right-of-way and disruption of the spatial relationships of the resource. Staff finds that while the proposed roadway will cut through existing farmland, it will not impact the historic core of the resource. Staff suggests that the applicants coordinate with the owners of the historic resource and surrounding farmland to discuss any preferred mitigation measures, such as fencing or plantings, that they might seek to reduce the visual impact from the historic core, but that absent a request from that property owner, staff finds that the introduction of sort of unexpected vertical elements through the farm field might draw greater attention to the roadway and may further restrict use of the surrounding farmland. Staff also notes that the applicants have indicated that although an unpaved access road was considered, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service determined that a paved roadway is necessary to ensure safe and reliable all-weather access for emergency response vehicles. So for this review, staff requests the HPC's feedback on the following questions. Has the applicant sufficiently explored alternative options to running the proposed road through the master plan site? Will the proposed road have a substantial impact on the historic resource? And if so, are there any suggested mitigation measures to reduce the visual impact on the historic resource? And any other comments you might have? Staff recommends that the applicants make any revisions based upon the HPC's comments and return for second preliminary consultation or HOP. And if the HPC is amenable to the proposed road construction, that for a HOP, the applicants submit full civil engineering plans showing proposed grading, drainage, sediment, and erosion control details. Happy to answer any questions you might have for staff.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff? Commissioner Galway.
Yeah, I've got one question. First of all, thanks for that summary. That was very well done. I assume that the 20-foot easement was granted at some point to provide access to this landlocked property. Is that true? Do you know? Would you know?
That is my understanding, yes. And it does, so the easement, they could access it currently through the farmland, is my understanding. They would just have to drive over the farmland.
All right, thank you.
This is Commissioner Haynes. I have a question. At the point where it goes from southeast to northeast, do we know approximately how far to the core of the historic resource? Do we know that distance?
Sort of this,
Approximate?
the distance up here, sort of between
Yes.
the thread.
Yes.
I don't know off the bat. I could try to measure it pretty quickly if you'd like.
Yeah, do that. But also, if I may ask, the photograph on this slide, the bottom is from Brookville Road, correct?
Yes, it's
that's
from
com-
kind of that driveway entrance.
Okay. And so at least during the summer months and before the leaves drop, it seems the historic core is pretty much hidden by the tree line on the upper left corner. Yes. Is that accurate that the core of the historic resource would not have a direct open view to this entry?
Not all of the year. That's correct. Though typically, you want to review the plans as though, absent foliage and that sort of thing, plantings.
Thank you. Other questions for staff? Rebecca
Chair-
Ballo.
Thank you, Chair Haynes. I was able to measure that distance in our GIS MC Atlas while you were speaking with Laura, and it is about 660 to 670 feet. So about 0.13 miles.
Thank you. Good, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions for staff? If not, I will ask the applicant, Ben Drittenboss, to turn on your mic and audio and video.
Good evening.
I believe you'll have 7 minutes to make a presentation.
Sure, I can certainly do that. I don't know that I will be able to supply a whole lot more information than the incredibly detailed report that Laura just gave us, but I'll give it a shot. I have a little something prepared.
The other option is we can ask you questions if you're.
I certainly really don't have much more to add. Laura was very, very thorough. I was going to basically touch every single base that she covered there. So if you'd like, I'm happy to field as many questions as you'd like to fire away.
Okay, questions for the applicant? Jonathan.
Can't remember. I can't believe I remembered to turn my mic on. Yeah, I was wondering, are there any kind of pullouts proposed for the historic property, or have you gotten that far in the planning yet?
Haven't gotten that far down the planning yet. There potentially could be one pull off in the new existing farm road, but likely would be along the existing farm lane.
Okay, and then this is a private road, right? Not a public road?
That's correct. And just to go back to answer a question that was previously raised to the staff. So the access that you're seeing on the screen here was granted via a consent order, I believe in 2025, to grant the access to our property to the north.
Okay, yeah, because I was wondering if it is a private road, would there also be a gate or a signage?
So we would not have the gate until it would get all the way north above the transmission corridor to the entrance to the solar facility. Because at the end of the day, there's also our landowner also has intentions of building a residence he owns the parcel also to the north of us, and has intentions of building residence there in the future.
So there wouldn't be a gate or any signage on the historic property. That would be.
That's correct. No signage. That's correct.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks.
Other questions for the applicant? This is Commissioner Haynes. I have a few. How much traffic would you be expected on this road day to day, week to week?
Sure. So great question. I'll answer that in two parts. First part being construction. So during the construction of the project, we would experience the typical construction equipment. Construction would likely last anywhere from 9 to 12 months. The number of cars, I don't have the answer to that. But once the project becomes operational, I would expect maybe one visit a quarter from a technician, and then maybe once or twice per year for landscaping, for mowing.
And so once the project's built, kind of very little traffic per
Very,
se.
very minimal. We might see 10 trips, less than 10 trips a year on the road.
And other than solar panels, are there any structures on the property?
So currently there's nothing on the property.
Right.
So we will develop, the solar panels, the necessary, equipment to interconnect the project to the utility. But no other buildings or structures at this point are planned. We are coming to you in a very unique scenario. We've been in very early conversations with the planning and zoning department, and they wanted us to come to you and sort of get your, for lack of a better term, your blessing to move forward, to then go towards full development and get down the road of full engineering and construction level drawings that we would come back ultimately with the HOP application.
Gotcha. And my understanding is you've spoken to the fire marshal about the road.
That's correct.
Clearly, they prefer asphalt.
Yes.
But one
Go ahead.
point to make. On many of Montgomery County schools, they use permeable pavers around the building for fire truck access, and there are many heavy-duty paver systems out there. Is that not a acceptable solution, at least for perhaps the southeast portion of the road, and then it could transition to asphalt?
That's a valid question, and I would love for you to join the conversations that we've had with the fire department. It was not our choice to come in with a paved road. We would love to do a gravel road, but we've been told that we have to provide an all-weather access, and very bluntly, we're told, don't come back without a paved road.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for your response. Michael, Commissioner Galway.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Galway. Talk to me a little bit about the transmission. Is it going to be overhead from here out to the street? Is it going to be underground? What do you envision for that?
No, we'll be interconnecting right there along the, there's two options. We could interconnect right along the Pepco transmission line, or potentially have to do underground utilities all the way down the access road down to Brookville. If we do the second option, it would all be underground.
Rebecca Ballo. You have a question?
Thank you, Chair Haynes. Not a question, no. I just wanted to add some more information to the question that you had posed to the applicant, because I have been on a number of these pre-application meetings with the fire department and their planners, and also just a number of other cases with them involving solar facilities. And even the planning board, this is just a little bit of context, there was one case for a solar facility that came to the planning board for comments for a conditional use that then had to go to the hearing examiner. And the planning board in that case had also requested a gravel road or permeable paver, but when it came down to final building permit, it had to be changed to a paved road. The position of the fire chief and their planners is that because with these solar facilities and the transmission lines, basically it's because there's such a risk of fire with them that you wouldn't have in other public facilities like a hospital or a school or pretty much anything else. The need for the fire department to have a paved road of a certain width to be able to get to the site in all kinds of weather, the safety considerations have outweighed every other type of concern that other regulatory bodies have brought up. That doesn't mean, for example, that the HPC also couldn't, bring that concern up and request that, but that's been my background with more of these projects.
Thank you.
Thank
That's quite helpful information in understanding their position. Commissioner Dominiani.
Hi, thank you. Maybe following that same line of inquiry, I've been seeing around the county favoring of installing swales and sort of new forms of drainage along large paved areas. And I'm curious how, if at all, the grading for this project, such a thing would be built in when it comes to swales or drainage or perhaps a roadside ditch or something else, just so I have a better sense. I've been on many of the gravel kind of farm roads around the county, but curious how, if at all, that would affect the project. Thank you.
Just want to make sure I understand the question correctly. So you're asking how are we planning on managing stormwater? Is that correct?
Yeah, stormwater and drainage. Is there going to be ditches, swales, other stuff? It'd be useful to know.
Sure. So as mentioned before, we're still very in our preliminary stages of design. So we've been working with Montgomery County stormwater planners. We've discussed using as many environmental features such as swales that we can. That final design is still TBD.
Thank you.
This is a very conceptual, high level design that we're looking at here.
Any other questions? I have one more question. Alternate 2, could we pull that alternate up? Was there any consideration to work with the with Our Lady of Perpetual Help congregation, and that seems like, you know, 2/3 of the road is already built if you could work a deal with them, and you'd have
we
yes.
tried. We reached out to them. The biggest constraint that we have for this option is the environmental features. So this site lies within a Tier 2 watershed. So Montgomery County will not allow us to do any tree clearing within any buffer areas of wetlands. So we wouldn't be able to build the access road coming across where you see all those green highlighted, those green shaded areas. Those are all wetlands.
Gotcha. Okay. Not even if you promise to expand the wetlands?
Montgomery County will not let it is a protected water source.
Okay.
I would love to. would love to.
Very good. If there are no more questions for the applicant, then I'm going to open it up for general discussion between the commissioners. Commissioner Galway.
Thanks. This is Commissioner Galway. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of address the questions that staff had and sort of give you my 2 cents. Has the applicant sufficiently explored alternative options? And it seems like, based on what I've heard tonight, the answer to that is yes. You know, you had basically 3 substantive suggestions or recommendations. It sounds like you've explored them all. So I think that's satisfactory. I think it's a shame that the fire department's requiring at least the first section of the road to be paved. The rest of it, I wouldn't be too concerned. Once we got out of sort of a view, it could change. But if the fire department saying it's got to be paved road, then I don't see any way around that. So the good news is it is. You know, the topography is helping us out a little bit, and that it's a little bit lower. And I would certainly say stay away from trying to augment the road with any sort of I don't know, tree line or fencing or anything. Just I think the simpler the better, because as long as it stays flat and stays low to the ground as you come across, it isn't going to be particularly, it's not going to be visual. So I think in this way, I think the impact to the historic resource is going to be pretty small. And then in terms of other mitigation measures, I mean, I looked at, would it make sense to, rather than go around that swale where you have a culvert of some sort, could you go with a kind of a little bridge structure over it? But I'm not sure by the time you get back that far that it makes any difference one way or the other as you start to turn the corner and head back toward the solar farm. So I think the road is what it is. It's and I think it's a minimal impact. So I don't know. I don't know that I have any other further comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Dominiani.
Hi, I agree with everything that Commissioner Galway said, and I tend to, I guess, feel that 660 feet by the map is adequately far from the core of this historic resource, and I'm very pleased to hear that there won't be a gate or signage or anything else down near the entrance to this new road. I think that additional installation of stuff like that there is going to detract from the historic character, understanding that it is still very far away from that. But yeah, other than that, I think that the no more mitigation measures required considering the topography, and that the applicant has certainly sufficiently explored kind of other ways to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Prather.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Prather, and I drove to not only Zion Road, but also Brookville Road a couple days ago. And I want to applaud the applicant for sufficiently exploring alternate options. It sounds like you have been thorough to reach out to the proper officials to weigh in on your plan and to really be proactive in getting some answers and some solutions put forward. I want to go to bullet 2 in terms of, will the proposed road have substantial impact on the historic resource? I believe that the evidence shows that it would not have a substantial impact on the historic resource. And as a measure in putting this forward, I would recommend that we put no signage or anything to really disrupt or detract from the historic resource. So thank you for your thoughtfulness. And again, I did a drive-by, and I agree with the contents of the staff report.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaplan.
Yeah, so I think the gist of the feedback is just in every way, just kind of minimal impact on the portion of the road that'll be on the property. If it's possible to have turnouts not on the property, that would be great. If we really need to have one, perhaps the turnouts could be some other surface material. Yeah, I think adding fences or trees or anything like that is gonna increase the impact. So we wouldn't want to do that. And then just the less regrading we can do, the better too. So.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Kaplan. Commissioner Bond, would you like to chime in?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
And this is Commissioner Haynes. I too have nothing further to add and agree with my fellow commissioners on their comments. I feel that the applicant has sufficiently explored other options, and that this road will have minimal impact on the historic resource. So with that, I think you're hearing a positive support for the project, and you can go on to the next step. One question I have for Rebecca Ballo: will we be seeing or reviewing the civil engineering development on this, or that just goes to the permit folks?
You could certainly request it if you wanted to. The applicant, as he alluded to, he's here now in front of you guys to more or less get the HPC's support before he has to go to his mandatory referral at the planning board. So that's kind of the next board level step. So if the HPC is largely supportive of the project, which it sounds like you are, he could proceed to his mandatory referral at the planning board and then develop the civil engineering drawings, including all of the stormwater management that he needs to do, which the stormwater management would have to be part of the HOP anyways, and then come back when he has all his civil drawings, his stormwater, including his stormwater management, anything else, and that could come back as part of the final HOP at a later time. He does not need to get the final HOP before he goes to mandatory referral. In fact, I would not recommend that he does, just in case that the planning board has additional comments that they want to see incorporated into the design. So the short answer is yes, you can see the civil package if that's something you would like as part of the HOP.
I would myself personally say, no, we could review it at the HOP level, but I'd be interested to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say with regard to that. So Commissioner Bond, do you have any feelings one way or the other?
I think we could review the civil as part of the HOP at the HOP level.
Thank you. Commissioner Dominiani?
I agree. Thank you.
Commissioner Galway?
I also agree. Thanks.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yep, sounds good to me.
And Commissioner Prather?
I agree.
Very good. Then we will review the civil at the HOP level, and Mr. Tritton Boss, you may proceed to the next step.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And if I may, I'd just like to share my gratitude to both Laura and Rebecca. They were both so incredibly thorough and very, very easy to work with throughout this whole process. And thank you for getting us here tonight. So thank you all for your time, and I appreciate the recommendation.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
evening. All right, we will move on to preliminary 2B at 10701 Keswick Street, Garrett Park. Do we have a staff report?
Dan, you're muted.
There's bound to be somebody, right? So this is our fourth preliminary consultation at the subject property, which is the Truett Richter House, which is a master plan site, colonial revival house constructed circa 1894. This is to be reviewed under 24A and the Secretary of the Interior standards. So even though it's in Garrett Park, it's not part of the Garrett Park Historic District. So the applicant proposes to construct a new single-family house within the environmental setting, remove several trees, expand the existing curb cut and hardscaping, regrade the front portion of the lot. And just a reminder, at earlier preliminary consultations, the HPC evaluated a proposed accessory structure and it was supported. Details of that were not included in this preliminary consultation. Just taking a step back in April of 2025, the HPC recommended approval of an administrative subdivision which created the subject lot with the intent of constructing a single-family house on it. And then beginning in December 2025, the HPC held a series of preliminary consultations evaluating the design of the house. Most of the objections related to the proposed massing of the infill house, finding that it was too massive and would compete with the historic house. A month ago, we held the third preliminary consultation. This was a radical revision of the design, and the HPC was generally supportive of the direction and provided some prescriptive recommendations on how to emphasize the horizontality of the design to better blend in with the landscape for compatibility. So again, what you see in the upper right is the historic Truett Richter House. It's a 2.5-story colonial revival house with a front porch constructed 15 years after the original construction of the house. And you see the lot newly created lot is on the north side of the environmental setting. It's designed to avoid capturing this existing outbuilding. It will include a new expanded driveway along with the house, and then the accessory structures behind. So the primary revisions with this are, we've got substantially wider eaves. The eaves that the HPC saw the last time were only 2 feet 6 inches wide. They've been expanded to 4 feet. The porch heights have been lowered. The columns have been redesigned to emphasize sort of a closer connection with the ground instead of carrying the masonry much taller. The brick portion and the projection has been eliminated, and we now have fiber cement clapboard siding wrapping the first floor, and then the second story windows were raised. Staff finds that all of these changes help to emphasize the horizontality of the building, which is in direct contrast to the vertically oriented Truett Richter house. On the right side, again, we see the siding continue wrapping around the first floor and decorative banding, and the windows have been raised on the second floor. And then on the left side, again, much lower for the wraparound porch, column design changed, and the fenestration on the second floor has moved up. And then for the rear, you see the slightly lower porch, and then the second floor fenestration is raised, and the fiber cement siding. The floor plan hasn't changed at all from the previous submission. Again, the house is separated by some 80 feet, and its 20 feet height is approximately 2/3 of the height of the Truett Richter house. The applicant provided window details, identified them as fiberglass with prairie border light transoms. The staff report notes that there's a range of quality in what fiberglass is, so detailed specifications and perhaps a window sample depending on staff and the HPC's familiarity with that. They also note that any applied grills or need to be simulated divided light with permanently affixed exterior and interior grills, and that grills between the glass would not be appropriate for infill construction. The applicant provided a diagram for some formal terracing to accommodate the grade. The note also indicates that there'll be a side path created to the side entrance, which isn't shown on the site plan. So staff finds that the contemporary interpretation of the prairie style, which stresses the horizontality, is an appropriate contrast to the very tall historic house. It also blends in with the mid-century modern houses in the surrounding neighborhood, even though that's not a criteria for HPC's evaluation. The overall dimensions have not changed from the last preliminary consultation, which the HPC found were generally compatible. We find that the applicant responded to the HPC's comments from the last preliminary consultation, including the wider eaves, the decorative banding, the change in siding. Our finding is that the house will not visually compete with a historic house, and that the revised roof overhangs are appropriately sized for the house. Additionally, we find that the revisions to the front porch appropriately emphasize the horizontality of the house as directed by the HPC, and that the siding and foundation changes help to anchor the design to the ground, and again are consistent with the feedback provided by the commissioners. Regrading the front of the site is appropriate and quite frankly necessary to access it. With the HOP, we need to see detailed scaled landscape drawings that show existing and proposed dimensions, material specifications, are a requirement of a complete HOP application, and that we are somewhat concerned about the total amount of impervious surface shown in the concept, but because that hasn't been included in a full site plan, that we can't provide more specific feedback on that. Our recommendation is that in general, paving and impervious surfaces be minimized, and that as these plans get further developed, that the applicant should work with their civil engineer to minimize or eliminate these site walls as appropriate. The trees that were identified for removal that were discussed earlier were planted by the current owners of the Truett Richter house. So they're no more than 45 years old and are not historic, and they're necessary to accommodate the construction of the house, and staff supports their removal. So tonight, before the applicant submits a HOP, staff requests feedback from the HPC regarding the appropriateness of the revised massing of the roof, eaves, and porch, the material changes, the appropriateness of the window material, the proposed hardscaping, and any additional comments. And as noted in the staff report, the final HOP must include detailed material specifications, including siding materials, windows, doors, porch materials, etc., including specifications for hardscaping materials, detailed drawings of specified elements like windows and columns. There was a diagram of columns included in the submission. Any other materials that are identified in tonight's hearing, and that building plans and material specifications for the accessory structure are required for a complete application. But staff notes that that could be a separate HOP at a later date as the applicant is ready. And I will answer any questions that you have. And in the meantime, we can refer back to the prompts, and I'm happy to refer back to any other images than the staff report.
Do commissioners have questions for staff? None? In that case, we'll invite the applicant up, Mr. Dan Andrews, I believe.
That's correct, President.
Mr. Andrews, you can make a presentation or answer questions. If you wish to make a presentation, you'll have 7 minutes to do so.
Okay, thank you. I don't have a full presentation. I'm just, we've come a long way since my initial first proposal. And I understand the staff report, and I'm grateful for the staff support. After the July meeting, I refined the design to address the feedback, and Dan covered that. The porch, the columns, the horizontality. And so I look forward to hearing the commission's comments.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions for the applicant? Everybody's thinking. If there are no questions for the applicant, we will begin our dialogue amongst ourselves and give you our feedback.
Okay.
Commissioner Galway.
Yeah, excuse me. This is Commissioner Galway. I'm happy to say that I don't want to see this other than being a HOP. I think you've hit the nail on the head that this has come a long way. And I think at this point, we're just kind of getting into refining the details. And so I think from my perspective, following the staff's recommendations for sure, I think they're all good recommendations to include that information in the HOP and submit it that way. I am perfectly happy. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but massing is good. I think your material changes are spot on. I don't really have a comment one way or the other in the windows, and the thought of the hardscaping is something you have to really look at, and that could make or break your drive up to the front of the house. So I think definitely focus on that and make sure that you've got something that you're satisfied with and something that will complement the house. Other than that, I don't know that I have. I think that the changes you made are from the last preliminary are certainly improvements, but I do think we're just getting to the point where it's just the final details, and I think that can be covered as part of the submission of the HOP. So thanks for all your effort.
Commissioner Bond.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Galway's comments. I just wanted to note in particular, I think the revisions at the roof eaves are particularly successful. And I also like the changes to the materials of the base of the house. I think that's also a very successful change. So thank you.
Commissioner Dominiani.
Yeah, just to pile on gratitude to Dan for coming back. It's been an exercise in dialogue, I think, over the past few months. And I think you've been very patient and responsive. And so for that, I'd like to say thank you. I wish that all of our applicants who come could be so responsive as you. And I particularly appreciated in the materials you submitted the specific topics and responses in the design response. It's excellent how you summarized that. And I think that the material changes, the massing, everything works very well. And the horizontality, incorporating kind of some of these prairie principles, I think really works. And for me personally, I would just recommend, I think another commissioner mentioned this, but maybe dialing in some permeable surfaces where you are going to be doing some paving and some paths and stuff. I know there's a bit of a hill to manage, but yeah, permeable surfaces if you can. But other than that, I think I'd love to see this as a hop. And so thanks again, and looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you. Other commissioners? Commissioner Kaplan.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of details, but I would just say that it's been a long road, and I think it looks great. So,
thank you.
My comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Prather, care to say?
You know, the one
thoughts?
thing that this significant improved alterations and process did for me is it had me dig deeply into some of the porch design and consideration. So thank you, because as a lifelong learner, I try to again assess the massing and the roof eaves and the porch. And so I was digging into some of the latest porch considerations and recommendations and things like that. So I agree with all the other commissioners, and I thank you for giving me a little bit of stretch on some of the material changes and window material and some of that. So thank you.
Very good. And I'll wrap it up. This is Commissioner Haynes. I concur with my fellow commissioners. You've been very patient. You've responded to our comments, and the project has come a long way, and for the better. I agree that the massing, the increase in the overhang eaves, gives it a proper proportion that we were looking for. I particularly enjoy the rendering that you provided from the I guess that would be the screen porch side. Just has a really nice feel to it, and I believe it will fit comfortably alongside the Schuett Richter home, as well as the other adjacent, more mid-century modern homes. So you're hearing positive support for the project, and I believe you are now headed in the direction of a HOP application, and we look forward to seeing that coming forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
If I can just jump in before you leave, Dan, do you have any questions for the HPC? Because it sounds like this is the last time you're going to have to speak with them before the HOP is submitted.
No, everything's noted about the windows and the muntins if I decide to use them in the top. And then yeah, the stormwater management and the impervious surfaces are definitely, they've always been top of mind. And the big driveway in the front was also a fire marshal thing for an EMT turnaround. And so I'm working with them and the civil engineer to see if we could do pavers or something else. And so that we wouldn't have to do asphalt. But that'll all be calculated, and then that'll be with the final application.
Very good.
So
thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Right. Very good. We will be moving on now to our third preliminary. This is 2C at 5629 Lambeth Road, Bethesda. And do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is preliminary consultation for 5629 Lambeth Road in Bethesda. It's this Tudor revival house from 1941. It's a contributing resource to the Greenwich Forest Historic District and needs to be reviewed under the Greenwich Forest Historic District Design Guidelines, Chapter 24A, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. So the applicant proposes to demolish a large portion of the rear of the existing house, construct a 2-story rear addition, and new side entrance to the property. So again, this is front elevation of the house on Lambeth Road at the edge of the historic district. You see it in the center of this photograph. You can see on the right side there is addition will be visible from the public right-of-way. And then this is the left side. The addition on this side will only be 1 story, so it'll be less visible from the public right-of-way. I'll note that the first floor window that's partially obscured by the hedge is proposed to be turned into a new entrance with a roof covering. So again, and then this is the rear elevation. Currently, you can see from a hierarchy of design, it's the much less embellished elevation. So we have first and second floor proposed floor plans, and we'll go through the elevations real quickly. You note we have a detail of the junction between the historic house and the proposed addition and the inset there. But as you see, the addition sits below the ridge of the historic house. It's smaller in scale, despite being a relatively large footprint. The 1-story portion here on the right will be largely obscured by the existing right side projection of the historic house. And then you see the new entrance on the left side with a new roof structure designed to match the details of the front porch. So the primary reason that we're holding a preliminary consultation for this project is the insets. The Greenwich Forest Design Guidelines stress the need to retain the outline of the historic building as part of accommodating additions. So the question for the HPC tonight is whether or not this 1 foot 4 inch inset, 1 foot 4 by 2 foot 1 is sufficient under those details, or whether additional embellishment needs to, or if there needs to be a larger inset in any dimension to satisfy the requirements of the Greenwich Forest Design Guidelines. So staff's findings are relatively straightforward. We find that demolishing a large portion of the rear elevation is necessary to accommodate any addition, and those changes won't be visible from the right-of-way. The addition will be partially visible, but that's not one of the criteria from the Greenwich Forest Design Guidelines. The size of the proposed addition is compatible with the character of the house and appears to satisfy the requirements of the Greenwich Forest Design Guidelines for both size and materials. And we find that the addition draws from a traditional architectural vocabulary and is compatible with the character of the house. So we find that the addition remains subservient to the historic house and will not overwhelm it, and that the house and addition satisfy the lot coverage limit in the design guidelines, which is less than what the zoning maximum allows. Staff finds that more needs to be done to increase the visual separation between the historic house and the new construction, and to retain the outline of the original house. Moving on to the side entrance, staff finds that enlarging the existing side window to accommodate a door is generally compatible with the character of the house and the requisite guidance, and that replicating the porch details is appropriate under the design guidelines. Staff's additional recommendation is that slates be salvaged from the rear roof slope, and that way the material will perfectly blend in with the historic front porch roof. So staff's request this evening is for feedback from the HPC regarding the appropriateness of the sufficiency of the separation between the historic house and the proposed addition under guideline D4 and standard 10. And if the HPC finds the proposal is not sufficient, what specific revisions are recommended, whether that be dimensional or material or otherwise. We'd like to get feedback of the HPCs on the appropriateness of the addition's massing and design and the appropriateness of the new, it says addition, left entrance, not addition. So, and just staff notes that the final HOP must include detailed material specifications, including the brick foundation, window wells, trims, and doors, information regarding any new hardscaping proposed for the subject property, and then a tree survey of the site. Staff notes that this is particularly important in this district, as the Greenwich Forest design guideline for tree removal is very, very prescriptive when it comes to requiring replanting. So we just want to make sure that that's satisfied. And I will answer any questions that the commissioners have at this point.
Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Galway.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Galway for the record. The addition, I believe, is it going to be painted brick to match the original home? I may have missed it in the drawings.
So there isn't. It doesn't. The drawings don't indicate whether or not the foundation will be painted, but it is a brick foundation. It's not the whole of the addition that will be sided in brick. And that's a question that I think the applicant's architect could answer for you.
Fair enough. Thanks.
Other questions for staff? If not, then we'll ask the applicant's architect, Mark Kramer, and I don't know if the applicants, Matthew and Carolyn Miller, are with us tonight, but they too can come online.
This is Mark Kramer. I'm here. I don't think they're going to be here, though.
Okay, very good. Mr. Kramer, you can make a presentation or answer questions. If you choose to make a presentation, you'll have 7 minutes to do so.
Thank you. Actually, I am a resident, actually live about 4 houses away from this house and am an architect and participated in the writing of our regulations for Greenwich Forest. So I know them very well. I tried to be very sympathetic to the original house. We minimized the addition in the back by only having a portion of it being 2 stories. We left one area to be 1 story because I was concerned about seeing the additional height from that side of the house. We tried to use materials which would be sympathetic to the original house. The answer to that question related to the brick is that the brick will be painted. The original house brick was painted. So we're going to continue in that trend. The addition will try to be very sympathetic to all the materials that were on the original house. We more than like, and we will submit all those samples and also hardscaping and a tree survey, but we are not really going to affect any trees. We're only the area in the backyard of the house, where we're building the addition, is just poured concrete on the ground. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for the applicant? Commissioner Kaplan.
Right. So with the new with the window that's becoming a door on the side, is it maintaining the same width as the existing window?
Yeah, we're not going to change the header. It'll be the same lentils.
Oh, it will be. Okay, I thought I saw something about new lentils on the a new lentil.
I don't think. Yeah, I think if anything, we might have to raise it a brick or so, but it will be in the same area. and it's the same width.
Okay, so you're not kind of creating a new bigger opening, except, you know, what you
No.
need to make the door. Okay, okay, thanks.
Right.
Other questions? Commissioner Galway. Oh. Commissioner Galway, you're muted.
Sorry about that, guys. I think I went from being on to off. Okay, so we're painting the base in the back, so that's you cleared that up for me. What do you envision for the hardy lap siding on the back in terms of the finish or the color? Are you do you think you're going to be matching the color of the painted brick on the front on the original home, or are you going to use a different color? What are your thoughts there?
I think the client wants to paint the new siding to match the siding that you saw on the front elevation of the house. So it'll be like it's like a dark bluish gray. It'll be exactly the same color. It'll be painted. It's also the smooth hardy plank that we'll be using.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Dominiani.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the presentation and for the drawings. I think it's very useful and helpful to understand. I wanted to get your view about how you. I understand you were involved in Greenwich for a long time, but how you view the depth of these insets. I'm looking at the floor plan and sort of seeing that perhaps there's room to accommodate a bit of a deeper inset. So I'm just curious for your thought or your process about how you ended up with this size. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually 42 years in Greenwich Forest now, so yeah, I'm well involved. The inset that I was trying to do is because the materials are dissimilar. I was trying to inset it enough so that there would be a shadow line back there, and we basically went back a little bit more than 12 inches and 2 feet in the dimension going to the back of the house, so that there would be enough of a shadow line and also a trim detail there that would separate the two materials. And we tried to also accommodate that into the floor plan. So we're going to change the kitchen to have shallower cabinets in that area. And we also, on the other end of the house, did the same thing to accommodate a cabinet. So we just think it would create a good shadow line back there.
Got it. Thank you. And particularly on, I guess, the left side, are you open to? I think that the drawings showed it about 1 foot 4 inches or something. Are you open to deeper, or perhaps even greater in width? So we sort of see like more of a hyphen effect in some other additions to historic properties in other neighborhoods too.
I think the issue was that we were trying to maintain some good usage of space inside the room. And that sort of didn't hurt anything inside the space. So it was really a compromise between the exterior and the interior.
Okay, thank you for the comment.
Other questions for the applicant? This is Commissioner Haynes, and this is one of those challenging projects where the house is relatively small and the clients want to bring it up to contemporary living standards, and you almost have to double the size of the house to really do that in this day and age. So I can appreciate the challenge that any architect or designer has in doing that and trying to do so in a way that complements the original resource. The guidelines, particularly D4 regarding additions, states that the style of an addition must be compatible and in keeping with the prevailing style of that house. The style of the addition must be compatible with the style of the original house, unless the owner wishes to change the entire original house, which doesn't seem to be the case here. But I guess I would like your thoughts about how you see your addition. How do you see it compatible with the historic resource?
Good question. So the way I saw it was that the front elevation of the house has a very dominant gable end kind of detail. And rather than build, and I do see this on other projects, one large addition, what I did was I separated it into 3 different parts. One with where the master bedroom would be, and it's another gable, and I tried to be diminutive with it so that it didn't overwhelm the backyard visually. Then in between that, you have another sloping roof, which is in between that and a lower gable. So I separated it into 3 separate volumes, then try to create one large addition on the back end of a house, which would have saved money. But on the other hand, I was trying to be more sympathetic to the way the house is already structured.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions for the applicant? If not, then we will share our thoughts and response to your application. And while we're gathering our thoughts, anyone care to share? If not, I will kick off the discussion. I mentioned the word compatibility, which in my mind, I would define it as the parts working well together. While they don't necessarily need to mimic one another, they should sort of identify well with each other, and when they're combined together, they somehow work well from both function as well as architectural integrity. So I think from that perspective, I don't feel the addition and understand the challenge of creating a large addition on a relatively small house, but I don't think they're quite relating well together. And I think part of it is in the massing, part of it is in the detail, or part of it is massing, part of it is the forms chosen, roof forms in particular, and then in the details. For me, if we look at the rear elevation, I think the widths of the 3 parts don't complement the house, meaning or don't relate well to the house. I think the 2, I'm going to call them wings. I know they're not really wings, but the kitchen and the family room, those widths of those masses, in my opinion, are too small width-wise. And so there's not a complementary mass there to the original house. The roof form in the middle, which I understand it to be a shed roof, just a single slope back, I find that, particularly when we look at the left elevation, that has no relationship to the original house. It's kind of a strange form for the house, and therefore diminishes the complementary nature that we're looking for, the compatible nature that we're looking for. The original house has no eaves, there's no overhangs. You are proposing boxed overhangs and overhangs at the gable, again, which is not, in my view, complementary or compatible to the historic resource. It looks too typical, meaning the boxed eaves. We see that on every stylistic house, certainly from the 1920s through 2026. There's nothing distinctive or that speaks to the original architecture of the resource. I find that the siding on the historic resource is mitered corners. You're proposing trim boards. Again, it feel for me, the architecture that you're proposing is a different language, and it's the, I guess, the severity, if you will, of the language that I feel doesn't work or doesn't speak to or complement or hold hands with the original historic resource. This is an addition that could be put on the back of many different types of residential buildings. It does not speak to this particular house, in my opinion. And so I think there's some work to be done to make the addition work harmoniously with the historic resource. I find the materials in general are fine. I think it's the way you execute the materials and particularly the details that are going to make this a successful addition, one that people don't look at and say, oh, well, there's the original house and wow, there's the addition. There's, and I know we sometimes are confusing because we want the addition to be differentiated from the historic resource, but at the same time, the guidelines strictly say the addition must be compatible. And I suppose one's definition of compatibility can vary, but for me, I feel that the massing is off. It's large. If there's any way to reduce it, footprint wise, if you can reduce it, but also I think you do need a bigger gable move on the back. I think the two smaller masses, I appreciate that you're trying to make a nice scale in the rear, but it doesn't really work with the house itself. It looks like a foreign addition put on a historic or a contemporary, I'm going to say it differently, a contemporary addition onto a historic resource. And both pieces are nice, but when they come together, I don't think they work well. So that is my thoughts. Other commissioners? Commissioner Galway. You're muted.
I'd keep muting myself instead of unmuting myself. That's going to be tough to follow. I kind of looked at it in a little bit different and not diving into sort of the architectural detailing, but rather looked at it in terms of what I would see if I was going down the street. And I think a lot of what we're talking about would be in the rear. And yeah, I think you can obviously argue one way or the other what the term, what it means to be compatible. But from my viewpoint, I'm looking at it and saying you have the house in the front with its white brick basically on the sides with the front gable being this gray, and then as you go back and even with the hyphens or the notches, you're going to see effectively a continuation of the color. So I'm looking at it more in terms of what I would see color wise and less emphasis on the materials. And so I'm thinking that it might be tough for the average Joe who's driving by, even with the notch creating that shadow that you talked about. It might be tough to really differentiate the old from the new, the original home from the new addition. Not because of the detailing. I think the detailing is going to be hard to see from the street. So I'm wondering, have you done enough in terms of trying to differentiate, in this case, the color, not the material, where it switches from at the notch from the old to the new. I So I'm just perplexed by that. That is like, is there something we can do? In one hand, it's interesting. Chair Haynes is saying, he feels that it could be more compatible, and I'm looking at it from a color standpoint and saying, wow, I'm not sure it's going to be easy to differentiate from the street what is old and what is new, unless you walk back the property, go toward the back, and look closely. So competing comments, I understand, and that doesn't make your life easier, but hopefully you can appreciate where we're both coming from. I think in terms of the massing itself, not necessarily the compatibility, but from the massing, I think I find that appropriate. You've done a nice job of kind of hiding the addition, at least all the complexity that's going on in the back. You're not going to see that from the public right away. So I think you've done a nice job with that. We see a lot of times designs where the eave wants to try to match the existing, and we always push back on that and say, no, you should have a roof line that's lower, and you've done that successfully. So I think it is obvious that you understand the guidelines and you're working to do the right thing, and I guess that's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaplan.
And a third point of view, I agree with Commissioner Galloway's comments on the diminutive nature of the addition. I'm not so concerned with the paint color being the same, because I feel like just because it's a different material, it's going to look pretty different from the street. But that's going to differentiate it. And then I don't know if you're planning on having the same dimensions for the siding, but if they were a little different, that would also differentiate it. Because I like how it's differentiated from the original house, because most of that is brick, and then this is siding, but then there's kind of a call to that little bit of siding on the gable in front. I feel like that works nicely for me. The Commissioner Haynes' comments about compatibility, it's not something I noticed, but I'm not an architect. I think he's working at a different level than I am there. I'm less concerned with what's in the back, what you can't see from the street. But some of the things he pointed out, you can see from the street, and that shed roof actually kind of stuck out once he brought my attention to it. But I'm probably a little less concerned. Moving to the door, I'm because it is kind of a significant fenestration change in a visible location, and in my kind of like a little bit of sleuthing, I don't see a lot of side doors on the on similar houses from the period of significance. I would want to minimize the impact of the door. I like that you're not widening the opening and that you're planning to use the same lintel. I like the fenestration, because looking from the street, it's hard to tell whether that's a window or door anyway. And so these things that you're doing will continue that. I think where I have trouble is with the decorative feature above it, because it calls attention to the door, to the fact that it's a door. And I also feel like it's trying to look like some of the other original decorative elements, which might give kind of a false sense of history. So I think if for me, if that was removed, you'd have the door, so you get in and out, but you'd still maintain the appearance of a window from the street. Those are my comments. In terms of the hyphen, if there could be more, that would be great. Otherwise, I don't know there's a lot you can do. I mean, this is kind of what these additions look like. It is shorter. It's it's not extending past the original elevations. So yeah, that's my input.
Thank you. Commissioner Bond.
Yes, thank you. So I find the addition very large in terms in its width. It fully aligns with the historic house, and actually the gas fireplace in the family room extends past it. So I don't think there's enough visual separation between the historic house and the proposed addition. So either the addition needs to come in overall, or that reveal needs to get either deeper and possibly wider. Maybe wider rather than deeper. But we need to do something to work on that visual separation. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Commissioner Dominiani.
Hi there. Some of this might be repeat. I was kind of studying the drawings as others were talking, but I wanted to talk about something that I think is working, which is the height of the roof line on the two-story mass of the rear addition. I like how it's lower than the front original historic house. I think it does go to some subservience. I'm noting on the rear protrusions that there's a bit of roof overhang on both the left and right, which I think might protrude actually outside of the original historic wall planes on the left and right of the house. That could be like maybe a bit of a problem. I understand the architect's comment about the creating a shadow line with a bit of an inset between the historic house and the addition. It could be maybe a little bit wider or something else. Like I think maybe working on that detail a little bit is going to help. A lot of times I feel like with these large additions that almost like replicate the footprint of the house again in the rear in order to bring on like these large family rooms, large master suites upstairs. You know, we see this in Tacoma Park and some other historic districts also, with very large additions on kind of sort of cuter, smaller houses of a smaller scale from a different time. Anyway, we see this a bit where like separating is really important. But I think that you're on the right track. And I believe the architect, he noted at first, like the instinct to break up the massing instead of just have a gigantic protrusion. So having two different roof lines, whether they're the right shape or, as Commissioner Haynes was beginning to tease, whether they're the right shape is maybe a different question, but I appreciate his instinct there to kind of minimize and everything. And looking at the house from the street, I've been through the street and sort of looking now just again on Google, and I think maybe like the pattern of fenestration on the left and the right side maybe like isn't working or isn't doing you favors in terms of like compatibility with the house. They read as like very different windows, or the pattern is maybe like a bit different. The shapes of the windows tend to be maybe like not as narrow or not as square as like the historic windows. So that's something to work on. I think that the devil ends up being in the details a little bit on this, but overall, I think it's at least, despite the size of the addition, the roof line is lower. It is like relatively subservient. So I think it's on the right track. The other architects on the commission, I think, are providing maybe more valuable feedback than I am. But anyway, I just want to express gratitude for coming in and going through this iterative process too. I know it can take a little bit of energy to draw it and do it one way and then do it again. So anyway, my gratitude for you. This is a beautiful house and it is a beautiful neighborhood. And so I'm hoping that together with this feedback, it's going to turn out and do an excellent project. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Prather, do you have any additional comments to make?
I do not have additional comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer, do you have any questions of the commission?
No, I appreciate everything. I think these are all good comments, and I'm going to go back and we can make some modifications, and then I guess I'll send it over to Dan. And I guess I'm going to get a staff report, and then I can go through each one of the comments. But I think a lot of this can be addressed, and our whole aim is to be very sympathetic to the house because it is a neighbor of mine also. So I want it to look beautiful.
As do we. So thank you for taking in our comments. I think you would probably be best served to come back for another preliminary review. You've heard, just to summarize the comments of the massing, differentiation of old and new from a color perspective, what is visible from the public street concerns. You've heard comments about the side entry and the roof or the deletion of the roof potentially. There's been certainly discussion about the hyphen and the size or proportion of the hyphen. So staff has a record of all this and can provide you with a report, and you can work with them to refine your design. But I appreciate your coming in tonight.
Great. Great.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, we will be moving on to the next item on our agenda, which are the tax credit group. Number 6, I believe Dan has report.
Actually, Laura has it
Yeah,
tonight.
sorry, I'll go ahead and
Oh,
give the report.
sorry.
This is Laura with the staff. Tonight, we also have Group 6 of the calendar year 2025 Historic Preservation Tax Credits. Staff has determined that there are 12 applications in Group 6, consisting of $221,008.96 in eligible expenditures for owners of properties designated on the Master Plan for Historic Preservation. A report, including a brief overview of the work entailed for each of those applications, was provided to the HPC ahead of the meeting. Staff recommends that the HPC recommend approval of Group 6 of the calendar year 2025 tax credit applications as detailed in the report, and recommend that staff transmit these applications to the Department of Finance for final review and approval.
Any discussion? Anybody care to make a motion? Mr. Galway. You're muted.
Am I having so much trouble this evening? I do this every single day. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Group 6 Historic Preservation Tax Credit applications for the calendar year 2025, and that we recommend that staff submit these tax credits to the Department of Finance for their final review and approval.
Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Prather. I second the motion.
I will do a roll call. Commissioner Bond.
Aye.
Commissioner Dominiani.
Aye.
Commissioner Galway.
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan.
Aye.
Commissioner Prather.
Aye.
And this is Commissioner Haynes. Aye as well. This motion passes unanimously, and we will transmit the tax credits accordingly. The next item on the agenda is the minutes from July 29th, 2026. Has anybody read the minutes of July 29th?
This is Commissioner Dominiani. I've read them, and they look good to my eye. And as such, I would move that we approve those minutes from the July 29th, 2026 meeting.
Very well. Do we have a second? Commissioner
This
Prather.
is Commissioner Prather. I second the motion.
We will do a roll call once again. Commissioner Bond.
Aye.
Commissioner Dominiani.
Aye.
Commissioner Galway.
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan.
Aye.
And Commissioner Prather.
Aye.
And this is Commissioner Haynes. Aye. It's unanimously approved, and look forward to the next round of minutes. Moving on, other business, any commission items? Doesn't appear to be. Any staff items?
This is Rebecca for the record. Yes, a few staff items, Chair Haynes and Commissioners. As I mentioned during our work session, we will be starting a bit early on September 9th, convening our work session at 6 o'clock. We will have the dinner available for everybody in the auditorium. I made the executive decision during the meeting. We'll have the food ready by 5:30 if folks want to come by 5:30. And if you can't get there till 6, again, no problem. You're welcome to eat during the work session. if you can't attend, then I will schedule a separate time to go over the information with you. Again, this work session is about running efficient meetings, Robert's Rules of Order, and the role of each of the officers at the commission. Additionally, coming up in early September, we have the public hearings for the Friendship Heights sector plan. Chair Haynes will be signing up to speak for that, and Chair Haynes' staff is working on the letter for you to review to send to the planning board as part of the public testimony in advance. The staff, John and I, were on the tour for the planning board this past week. We went down to all the sites of interest in the Friendship Heights sector plan that are scheduled for rezoning, and we took the planning board members by the Reynolds House, the site that has been recommended for designation. So everybody got to see that, and John got to give a brief history of that. And those are the only items we have coming up in early September. I also do not have an update yet about our new appointments to the HPC. This is the first time in as many years that the appointments did not get done by the council prior to the August recess. So I am back in touch with the county executive staff. Hopefully our new commissioners will be appointed in September, but I don't have a date, but I'll let everybody know when we can expect them. And those are all of the staff items.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, let's hope our new appointees will be joining us soon. Welcome their input. If there are no other items, then I think I can officially adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.